Okay, I think I'm actually gonna put this down because it's a bit awkward, and hopefully I will have some kind of coherence in what I'm trying to say to you today. It's really lovely to be back in my hometown and see so many familiar faces. It's sort of, obviously this is a conference for journalists and on journalism, so it's hard to avoid the feeling that we're just sort of talking to each other in an echo chamber, but we should just embrace the fuzziness and warmth and comfort that offers us. It's a hostile world out there. So I guess it's okay to be amongst ourselves. I should probably introduce myself. All right, so my name is Matina Stevis-Gridneff. For my Greek friends, Matina Stevi, o tonos stoita. It's a big problem in my life. I'm the bureau chief in Brussels for the New York Times, which I have endeavored to make as sexy and spicy a job as it will ever be, by spending quite a lot of time writing about migration, which is really the only through line in my career, the only thing that I've done the longest. Since I wrote my first migration story entitled Border Burden. I was 23, I think, and I was working at The Economist, and it was a story about the launch of the first Frontex operation in Greece. The Economist loves financial references, and I recall at the time that the article, bemoaned that the Frontex budget was the same as the subsidy for rice in the Common Agriculture Policy, and I think there are some people who believe that's where it should have stayed. It's obviously not there anymore, and if anything, migration has grown as a topic and become quite central in the lives of the people who write about it, report on it, investigate the broader topic. And obviously, there's been a sea change in public sentiment as well as policy. Some of us here were around in 2014, 2015. There was a sort of historic and unusual alignment between public opinion, what was happening on the ground, journalism, and policy. It lasted all of about 5 minutes, and it's sort of been deteriorating and fragmenting since. You probably came to hear me talk about how to report and write migration stories people actually read, and that was my sneaky trick to get you here. Because the truth is, that's what we're all trying to achieve. So what I'm going to try and do is just offer some thoughts or things I've learned, especially in the last year, where I feel my organization has put a huge amount of resources behind migration reporting. And I feel like, I've learned some things from that. And the way we've done it, we're not there yet. And also just offer some thoughts from my own notebook about what I feel targets should be and how we might be able to get to them. But just so I know how warm and fuzzy we are here, how many of you actually regularly write or report on migration? Just show of hands. Okay, I hope everyone's in therapy. Highly recommend. There is a pervasive feeling of loneliness and pointlessness that many of us go through when we work on this topic. And I think at the heart of it, so many of us view this work as an act of persuasion. You have to persuade your editor that this story is bigger and better and will make more impact. It seldom does. You have to persuade your readers to open their minds, but mostly to open their hearts. They seldom do. And then we just end up having these conversations amongst ourselves, and we agree furiously that the world doesn't see this topic the way we do, with humanity and with a real dedication to the rule of law. And I feel that something is shifting this year. I mean, obviously, in policy circles and in politics, it's definitely shifting to the right, to more restrictive policies, to more abuses and tolerance thereof. But what we've seen at the Times is that a tweak in the methodology of how we report and write about big migration stories has found real impact among our readers. And some days you just sort of have to tell yourself that that's going to have to do, that your point is to make sure no one can say they didn't know, rather than to, make people's horrid experiences of being on the move better in the short run. The thing that I guess I've most learned is that moving from the glorious and extremely useful proliferation of open source forensics reporting to weaving that in with narrative journalism rather than keeping them in silos, human interest stories versus OSINT and open source forensic-based investigations, is very impactful. People really sense and connect with character-driven narratives like they always do. And the depth is just so much greater when you can offer them verified, convincing analysis that does come from the toolbox of more forensic-style journalism. That's what we've seen this year in our reporting, from our May investigation into a video from Lesbos showing the full gamut of a deep pushback, as it's called, or basically kidnapping and extrajudicial deportation of women and children mostly, to the Adriana shipwreck in Pylos, and so on. So I think we just sort of have to stop expecting that people are going to care because people are suffering and are being brutalized, and we just have to bring bigger guns to the table. And I guess the other thing that works, and I have to acknowledge my privilege, I work for a major news organization with a lot of money and a big platform, and that's not the experience of most people. A lot of people are freelancers, they have to play stories and, eat. What I'm seeing is that there is a huge reward for big stories rather than many medium-sized stories. So choosing your moment and choosing the story, and that will definitely mean saying no to a number of leads or potential stories that previously you might have reported on and published at like 1,000 words. So in a weird way, despite whatever people are saying about the attention economy and people's attention spans, the 2,500, 3,000 word deeply reported narrative investigation will be much more impactful and will actually keep people's attention if it is crafted as a narrative that's character-driven and supported and buttressed by our findings that are forensically verified, much more than hitting every single pushback happened, every abuse, every case that will come on your radar. And it does include a very tough decision that you have to vet those leads and then you have to let the vast majority of them go. And it kind of sucks, but I think that's my conclusion for this year. And, whoa, 0. You guys took so long to sit down. Just quickly on future targets, I think it's remarkable that we don't have high-profile cases of whistleblowers from border guards, Coast Guard, and all the authorities that work and deal with people on the move, asylum seekers. It's actually highly unusual to not have state officials come forward. I know that, most of us have dark days that think, everyone's radicalized and evil and corrupted and no one will ever speak. But I think that this has to be a key goal for everyone working on migration right now, is to crack down on what is effectively state crimes by bringing in sources from the state. So certainly, it's really hard, but hopefully that's something to devote a lot of energy to. And sort of, I think psychologically giving up on the idea that impact is within our reach and just settling for the truth in the best way that we can present it to our readers and hope that, someone picks it up and does something good with it.